Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Late to the Game podcast, hosted by yours truly, Ellie. Today, I am delighted to announce that I'm joined by a man named Karl Quigley. We were introduced in a slightly passing ships manner, but then we quickly became wrapped up in the notion of a mini D&D campaign, which is why we're here today. But we'll get into that after we get to know Karl a little bit more. So, Karl, welcome to the show. How the hell are you, and what have you been
Thank you.
playing?
Thank you very much. I'm good. I'm not too bad. I'm a little tired, but what have I been
Such is
playing?
life.
Such is life. But what have I been playing? Uh, I wish I didn't have to include League of Legends in there, but it's like an addiction.
Why?
I hate
League
it.
is cool. What?
It's an addiction when you've been playing it for like a couple of years and you hate every time you play it, but you keep coming back. It's
Why? Okay, so wait, we need to unpack that a little bit.
yeah. All right.
Why? Why do you hate it?
Uh,
First of all, is it
because
the community? I've heard that
it's
it's
the
pretty toxic.
it's one of the most toxic places on the internet. It is
Oh,
it's awful. I think it's just it's just bad. It's bad people, and then I don't know. I don't want. Let's just ignore League. I don't want. I don't want
okay,
to.
sure.
I hate League, but I do you know I started I got the Mass Effect
Ooh,
remaster collection, which
okay,
the Mass Effect series was pretty close to my heart when I was very young. There's a picture of me
okay,
at like 7 or 8 or whatever year it was that Mass Effect
okay,
1 came out, Christmas Day, holding the thing up, and the remaster collection came out. So I made my way through the first game, and I'm coming
okay.
towards the end of the second game.
Is it
Um,
holding up? Because I've heard a lot of basically didn't improve the things that they could have. They just
yeah,
reskinned it.
yeah. So like the visually remastered, some quality of life changes in general. First, like basically just the first game.
Okay,
The first game was like super nostalgia. The
okay.
theme kicks in the main menu, and I was just like
Just
completely
charged.
entranced straight away. And then I got like 20. It took me, I think, it was a 24 hours was my final playtime for the first game, and by
Wow.
like hour like 18, I was just like, oh fuck this sucks.
Oh
This is it's just
no.
so grindy. The combat's so bad. But the second game, I think, is the best game in the series, and it's holding up. We'll see what
That's
the
what I
third
see. I'm surprised you actually went to the first because most people I've heard of have just skipped the first game.
skipped it. You can't. I'm meeting my boy Garrus, meeting my boy Rex. I can't leave. Like the first game. The first game holds such a place in my heart as one of those RPGs. Uh, it was one of the foremost RPGs that I played when I was a kid, and
Hmm.
it was like 'cause I remember the demo and being like, you have a dialogue tree, like you can like choose what you want to do, and you can
There
have
are
like
options
yeah, you could be a dickhead to people. I was like, I'm a professional dickhead." So I
as
was
a child.
as
I
a
love that.
child,
Yeah.
as a whatever age I was, but that was exactly what I wanted, and
Right.
it was cool, and I just wanted it, and so I couldn't leave it. No, I didn't know how bad it was going to be towards the end, but ultimately it's a banger of an experience. So like
Fair.
the story held up. It drags a bit
Yeah.
at the end, but it held up. And the second game, I mean, the second game is just the fucking best. It is like
Yeah,
you
that's what
meet
people say. I haven't played it. I
you
just
have to.
know. See, okay, so I think you know this. At the end of Witcher 3, I received the bad ending, which destroyed me. And
Mm-hmm.
then everyone was like, "Oh, you think that hurt? Play Mass Effect."
Uh huh.
And I
Uh
was like,
huh.
"No,
Yep.
never."
Yeah.
So
Mass
that's all I
Effect.
know about it. I just know that it's tragic,
Yeah.
like unreasonably tragic at one point.
Yes. Yeah. So like the Mass Effect 3 ending has a I would probably like a global level of infamy in terms of
Okay.
the ending, because the ending is for a game, for an entire series that defined itself by literally being influenced by your decisions. So the things that you did,
Hmm.
people lived and died, and they were remembered across games, and you would have these people talking to
Ooh.
you. Like you get a woman's body released for burial for her husband, and in the second game he emails you and goes, hey, thanks so much for getting her, but like it's super
No
small,
way.
but it's like really nice. You get it, and I was
That's
like,
cool.
I remember that guy. And the third game received a huge amount of infamy because it's the same ending in three different colors.
Oh.
And it really fucked a lot of people off. Apparently, they've changed it. I'm looking forward to seeing what
Oh.
happens. But the second game, you go on a suicide mission. Like
Oh.
you know this from the start. Like it's gonna be a suicide mission, or it might be. And depending on what you do and how you've built up to this mission in the game, uh, anyone and everyone can die. So I
Oh.
I
It's
played
like
like,
Until Dawn.
yeah, it's like Until Dawn, yeah.
Yeah.
But like you aren't just playing them and getting attached to the people. You're the commander, so you're like
Oh, so
help
it's your fault.
like in like intimately getting to know these people and like
Yeah.
helping them get to come to terms with past traumas and stuff. Like
Wow.
one of them is like a child. She's basically like, they're called biotics. They have like, it's basically the magic of the world, but
Okay.
it's not actually magic. And you help her go home and like put a nuke where they like raised her as a captive warrior child, and that's like
Whoa.
her, like it's abandoned, but that's like her cathartic escape from like her
Yeah.
past. And it's like, that's awesome. And then
That's
like
cool.
she can just fucking die in the
Yeah.
final mission
Thank
because
God.
you just fucked up. And there's like, I played like 30 something hours as a couple of years. I can't remember what the difference was between 1 and 2, how many years, but like I played like a full playthrough, and in the final mission, my like one of my absolute favorite characters was killed because I made the
Oh my
wrong
God.
decision. And I was like, cool, turning my Xbox off, and I'm just gonna go restart this
Yeah, but
entire game.
oh, did you actually do it?
Yeah, did the full replay through. Yeah, 100%. I was a kid. I
Oh
had
my
time,
gosh.
and I googled everything, and I said, "Fuck you! I'm gonna I'm gonna
I'm going to save scrub the hell
I'm
out of
gonna
this.
I'm gonna scrub it. I'm gonna do it right." And like it was um not something I would do often. Like I wouldn't go back and like Google all the solutions to. I
Well,
wouldn't
I
go
mean,
back
I
and yeah,
guess to be fair, I'm gonna replay Witcher 3. Like I know I am. Like
yeah.
I'm just somewhere in my life I'll find the spare 100 hours to replay a
Yes,
game.
yes, yeah.
And that'll be fine.
It'll be
It'll be
fine.
fine.
I've tried to replay it. I've tried, but it is too big. It is
It's
it is
massive.
too big.
I
Like,
think I'll have to mainline it, but the thing that I love so much, because like mainlining it, I think is like 40 hours. But the thing that's so remarkable about the game are the side quests.
yeah,
Like it'll be
absolutely.
devastating to not play all
To
those.
not touch on
But
those things, like those are the that's why the game got good. Like it was because every
yeah,
side story was a quality plot. Like every
absolutely. But I'd love to know what do you actually do in your day-to-day life? I know you write, but
yeah. My day to day is not nearly as exciting as video games or uh I don't know, anything that we've mentioned before and after we started recording. I am a content writer for a international tech group.
Okay.
So funnily enough, it was the course that we were in. That
Yes, we should mention that.
Yeah, yeah,
So we did not take it at the same time, but Carl and I both took the narrative development in video games class that I took previously this year that a lot of my community would know about. But that is how we are passing ships because there is a Discord server that we just managed to like collide on.
yeah,
But you
yeah,
write
yeah.
for a tech company.
So yeah, I write for a tech company. Funnily
Okay.
enough, it was the this appearing on my CV, which got me that job.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, they said, look, you've got an interest in games, and you have experience in writing, like professionally. Would you like to work for us? Or was it? I did the whole entry thing, but
Here's
it was
this job on a
yeah, here's this
silver
job.
platter.
After being unemployed for 3 years,
It be
a
like that.
course it do be like that. A course that I took for shits and giggles because I wanted to do something productive with my time,
Yeah,
uh, ended up being the thing to like pique their interest in me.
amazing.
Not my professional experience, not my
Nah,
college qualifications. No, no, no.
nah.
Hey, that was neat. That thing that you did. Um, yeah. So yeah. So I mean, it is quite neat because it's a like they're like an entertainment industry like support group effectively. So like
Oh,
games, VFX, like cybersecurity. So they do like if your game needs cybersecurity, if you need animation, if you need developers, if you need artists, if you need VFX for your movies or your whatever, like they just sort of provide that. So they're a startup, but there's a good chunk behind it. So it's
cool.
neat. Like the cybersecurity guys actually helped secure the multiplayer behind Doom Eternal, which was neat.
Stop.
Yeah, which was really
That's
neat. So,
so cool.
so that is plastered on every social. It's like bang, Doom Eternal. We work for Bethesda. And it's like we did
Yes.
the one. Yeah, so it was cool. They're a cool. It's a cool group, and it's a neat enough job to pass
Cool.
my time. But that was what my day to day is.
Nice.
Yeah,
And so you mentioned earlier that you played Mass Effect as a
yeah.
child.
Mm.
So how early did you start gaming? Like how long has your like gaming career been?
um, like my first memory is Mario 64.
Oh
So
wow.
somewhere in I was born in 94, so somewhere between 96 and 98 I reckon is probably when I started like
2 years
actively
old picking up a
active
controller.
like it's one of my first memories. It's one of my first memories is the N64 on Christmas Day. So like
Love that.
it had to have been some like 2 or
Just very
3.
early.
Yeah, just straight into it. Like probably was older than that, but yeah, Mario 64, and like Super Mario 64 and stuff like that. That's defining. So like 24, 23 or 24 years, I guess, give or take. Like I
Okay,
started
so
early.
were there any gaps or anything? Like I took a big gap for my education. Like I
Like
just like didn't
gaming.
play any games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, gaming's always been a big part of my life. It's been a pretty defining part of, I think, my like creative and narrative mindset. Like games have been a huge inspiration for a lot of my writing and for a lot of D&D. Obviously, it's definitely the
Mm,
direct link to it. But not really. Like the biggest
yeah.
gap I would have taken for games would have been like final year of college when I just had to stop playing for a couple of months. But like
You
other than
just had
that,
to like
games.
do work.
Yeah, yeah. Funnily enough, actually, I had to stop playing The Witcher 3 on PlayStation. I was
That'll
on
do it.
Skellige after about 60 hours and had to
Yeah.
take a full couple of months off. And when I
Oh
came
my
back, I
god.
had
Did you know
no
how to
idea.
do anything?
I did not. And again, this is one of the few games I fully restarted The Witcher and played it plus DLCs to completion because
Oh my god.
I was finished college and I had time and I
Oh man.
played. I think it's probably about 200 hours altogether now, like across PlayStation and PC. Um,
Christ.
but I haven't played it since. I can't get back into it. I don't have the time for that anymore.
I mean, that's
Um,
fair. I feel like you've done your due diligence with that
I
game.
I I will sing that game's narrative praises. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we can talk about that like
We can
until the
talk.
cows come home.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but and I know this is a big question, and I
Yeah.
promised before recording that I would give a disclaimer that this can be a series of non-committal answers because it's
Hmm.
very difficult to
Yeah.
ask and to answer. What is your favorite game?
Yeah, that is the kind of question you have to kind of like. All right, so do you know what I mean? Like it's the kind of game you have to really. I think I said it to you just before we started recording. When somebody asks you that question, whether it be books, movies, games, music, like you should be allowed like to offer 5 to 10, like just answers. So I'm
I'll cap you at 3 to 5.
Okay, so I made a small list just of a couple of games, but I'm gonna cut these ones out because I don't have to talk about them with you because you know how good they are. So Witcher 3 is gone because you know how good that is and
Right,
we know that it's a quality game. I
right.
don't have to talk about God of War. I've
No.
seen enough of your posts.
Yeah.
Um did you ever get into Ghost of Tsushima?
Not yet.
Not
That's
yet.
on the list. It's happening soon.
So that is absolutely on my list.
Yeah.
Do you ever get into Hades?
That's also on my list.
Absolutely. Disco Elysium is also off the list because we know you
Oh,
have only just
so
started
good.
it, or like you're a good chunk into it now, right?
Yeah, I'd say I'm half-ish way.
So it's a banger. That's a banger of a
It's
game.
so good.
So Titanfall 2 and Knights of the Old Republic are
Ooh,
I think
okay.
that's 4. So Ghost of Tsushima is
Hmm.
a classic fucking story told really, really
Yeah.
well. It's just a great game
It's
mechanically and a great
so
game.
beautiful.
Yeah, and I absolutely love it. I
Mm.
think it did not get nearly enough praise. Despite getting quite a lot of it, I don't
Yeah, I
think
was
it
about to
got
say, I got
nearly
a
enough.
lot of praise.
It was. I thought there was like. I think it was pretty niche praise for me. I thought it was like
Okay,
the experience that I had. I thought it deserved even more. I thought it's a great experience.
fair
Titanfall
enough.
2 is one of those things where you're like, but that's a fucking shooter game. Like that's not that. It's like a Call of Duty. Hell no. Titanfall 2, one of the
Hell no.
hell no, one of the best buddy cop uh like dynamics I've experienced in a long while. Like in general, just sort of experience two people, or at least one main person, going through hardships and sort of just coming out on the other side, a change and different person. Uh, which is obviously the main guy, Jack Cooper, who's a rifleman who turns into a Titan pilot, the whole thing, and his Titan BT-7274, who is is a robot. He's a robot, and but they emulate humanity, is what they're not actually AI. At least we don't think they're. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But they're it's this brain, all right. And there's a moment. The reason it's on my list is there's a moment where you are about to fall to your death, and the Titan catches you. BT catches you, and
Oh, I've seen videos of this.
so he catches him and he goes, "Thanks, buddy," and puts his thumb up. And BT like looks at the thumb, so confused, and like zooms in and out, and then like looks at his own hand and gives a thumbs up. And that
So
shit,
good.
I was like, ooh, there's so much in that. Like, there's so much to like. There's like, ooh, there's like little grains and
For
like
people
cute.
that are just listening to the podcast, I think it's worth noting that Karl is doing like a small chef hands.
Yes,
By,
yeah.
by his
Like
mouth.
rubbing loads of sand between like your two, like all of your fingers. It prompted a short story idea from me. There was like
Cool.
something in there, and it ended up getting published. That game holds like just a really little nugget of love for me. And then Hades, I'll let you experience it. One of the best, just
I just the voice acting I know is supposed to be like sublime, and
spectacular.
it's like mainly by one man, isn't it?
The main character is voiced by this guy. He also did all of the music and also
That's what it was.
just
Okay.
one other character. It took him like somewhere between 2 and 4 years to record all of Zagreus's, the main character's dialogue, because it's just him, and he has
Yeah.
so much. I haven't heard a single line of dialogue repeated yet, and I have
Oh
played
my
that
god.
game for a long time.
Wait, so is it a game that has an end, or is it?
Yes, it has. It
Okay.
has an ending, and it has another ending sort of after that.
Oh.
There's like, because it's a roguelike, so the first a
Okay.
roguelite, I guess, yeah. So there's an ending when you first complete, like, make a run. There's an ending,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's an ending further down the line,
Oh, see.
um,
Okay.
and then there's like the true ending. I'm working towards that. Um,
Dang.
but
I
yeah,
thought it
it's
was
a
a much
great.
smaller game than that. That's cool.
It's chunky. Those guys,
Mm.
Supergiant Games, do not fool around when it comes to games. They do not fool around. And then Nightstill Republic is just again one of those games I played at a very very young, maybe not young, but I was maybe preteen or early
An
teen,
influential age.
very influential. And that is again one of the old classic RPGs. Just a great game. And same thing. Your choices had influences. Your
Mm.
decisions made impacts, and it was just a good Star Wars game. It was also it was good with the like light and dark system, and that it wasn't
Okay.
binary. Like you could be gray in the middle.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, but also like any like any morality system that has just, good
Right.
and bad, there is just like, you killed a person
Right.
and they didn't deserve it. And it's like, that is worth this many bad points.
Right.
And you
Right.
donated to charity, and that is an equal amount of good points to killing a human. It's like, that doesn't work.
Yeah. I guess that's
Um
fair. You can't really build that binary of a system and
you
call it a choice game.
there's no way. Like, there's no way for that to go in the cool way. It was neat though, and it was good for its time, and it still holds up. The story holds up, but so those are just a scattering of rambled answers.
I told you you could be non-committal. So, it's
But
on me as well.
it'll change. I'll give you different
Of course
answers.
it will.
I'll give you different answers in the next couple days. Um, yeah.
So our topic for today is D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And I maybe this was a bit of conjecture, but I kind of planned this question because I thought that I knew the answer. But
Oh,
what got you into painting miniatures?
oh.
Because I assumed that was a D&D influence, but I'm
So
not sure if that's right.
surprisingly not. No, I actually
Oh.
haven't painted a single D&D mini. I would like to, but I don't usually play with minis. I would play Theater of the
Right.
Mind. My current group, my main group, which would be my brother's group, are a very visual group, so they do actually like a battle map. So we started
Oh, yeah.
using tokens, but not actual minis.
Okay.
I think they'd like to probably move towards a miniature
I mean, who
battlefield.
wouldn't? It'd be so cool. But
It
I
is neat.
understand how hard that would be to manage.
It's a lot of work
Yeah.
on top of a lot of work.
Right.
Um, I'm happy to accommodate, but like it's a lot of work to get that going, and I'm not a very visual person. I like theater of the mind,
You're
so
not a visual person. I think you're the only
uh,
person I've ever met to say that.
I
It's rare enough that
yeah
someone is like, "Nah, I'm only auditory,"
I guess
or
maybe like visual maybe in that sense, like maybe like in D&D in creativity, like I'm a writer.
right.
I'm a like, and D&D, everything creative about me stems from the writing, because it was the earliest
Right.
influence, so everything's been in here, so I haven't really needed visual influences. But this might, sorry, I'm gesturing to my hobby table, which is
That's okay.
that's where all my minis are. So that's, I got into it because of Warhammer 40,000, which is a whole other kettle of fish. But
Okay.
um I did that when I was very young, dropped out of that when I got to 12 or 13. Just, it costs money.
Sure.
Like the minis are expensive, and then I just dropped out of the hobby itself because I was too young
Mm.
to like get into it. So I just sort of was like, this is fine. And then I made friends, coincidentally D&D friends, who I was like, do any of you guys play Warhammer? Are you into Warhammer? And they were like, oh yes, we have like several thousand points of armies like
Oh
ready to
my
go.
god.
Yeah, so they were all super into 40k as well. And then I was like, well, hey, I want to get back into it, and so they all got back into it with me, and
Cool.
that's where my mini painting comes from. So
Oh,
yeah,
fair enough.
it is surprising that I'm into D&D, and I have never painted
I
or
really
done
thought that
any.
that would be, like, the smoothest segue that I could plan. It seemed like like, put those hands together kind of moment,
I'm so
but
sorry.
it's fine, you just foiled my plans, it's okay.
That's my job.
But I wanted to ask because I have a lot to pick your brain about when it comes
Sure.
to DMing anyways. But I want to know cuz you actually you broke my brain the other day when we were talking about it cuz I didn't think about the idea that if like a bunch of friends that have never played D&D before decide to start a campaign, one of
Yeah.
them has to sacrifice playing before
Yeah.
DMing.
Yeah.
And I like that concept just broke my brain. Like I was like, "Oh my god, of course that has to be the situation."
Somebody somebody has to pick up those reins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did you play or did you play before
I
starting to
did.
DM?
Yeah, I did. I did play. I was the group that I just mentioned. I met them through a very good friend of mine, Aaron Murphy. He
Okay.
was. I was in college doing. I was games editor for the University Observer in UCD, and the one other person who had applied to games editor, he was the film and TV editor. He was Aaron, and I was like, I knew he was a big nerd. I knew he was my fucking people. So I was like,
Right.
hey, Aaron, what's good? I was like,
Right.
what's good, man?
You
Uh,
feel familiar.
yeah, I was very familiar with him. Immediately, we sat down next to each other in our first meeting, and they were like, "Oh, Karl, welcome. That's Aaron. He's the other person who applied for games." And I immediately just sort of was like, "Hey, man." He was like, "What's up?" And just immediately, like,
You're
just
my
just
people.
knew exactly like where we were mentally. And I said to him, I was like, "Man, I'm craving to get into D&D," and he was like, I run like 4 games, and I was, well, so he introduced me to D&D, to that group, and I played with, well, actually with an initial group for a couple of months, and then he introduced me to another group of his friends from Wexford.
Oh,
The
okay.
Wexican group is what I call them, and it's been like 6 or 7 years, and I still refer to them as my D&D friends, despite the fact that it's been like over
They're
half
just
a
your friends
decade.
now, Carl.
They're just my
They're
friends.
just yours.
I have to deal with that. But yeah, so I played, like, as a player only. I played for about 6 months.
Okay.
Um, after
Okay, that's short enough.
It was pretty short. After 6 months, I would chat to Aaron a lot about D&D, about game, about playing, and then a lot about DMing, and sort of like picking his brains about what was going
Hmm.
on behind the scenes, and like what he was doing, because he was a creative. He's a musician, and
Okay.
so, but he's a big flair for that, like the narrative side of things. And we were just chatting, and
Same.
then yeah, yeah, it's
That's
like
exactly my background.
you'll fall into it. You'll fall into it. I know you will. You'll fall into DMing, I'd say, because it's
I
just,
want to. That's
it
one of
was
the
just,
reasons I wanted to pick your brain is because
yeah,
like I know it's something I'm going to geek the hell out over,
yes, yes.
but I want to
So,
spend some time
but that's
playing.
it. Like, absolutely. Like, you'll enjoy your playtime. You will have a blast. You'll like hold on to your character, like the character that this is for. Like, I played him for like 2 or 3 years,
Mm.
and then so 6 months in, and I just needed more. I needed
Okay.
more D&D, so I ended up, I bought like It's back there. I bought the player's handbook, and
Yeah.
I very funnily the answer of like how long have you been DMing? It's my relationship plus half a year. So
That's so
that's
funny.
so because I was on the bus down to see my partner, who is coincidentally also from Wexford. She lives in Enniscorthy,
It
and
was all
shout out
meant to be. It all happened in
it
Wexford.
had it all happened at Wexford. Uh, so bloody Wexicans. So I was on the bus down to Enniscorthy reading the player's handbook, just
Oh,
like
amazing.
cover to cover, just everything. And yeah, it came from a need to get more D&D, but it's because I was a creative. I wanted to make my own world. I
Mm.
wanted to I wanted to because I at that point I'd written short stories and books and stuff, and I wanted to. I love the idea of being like, well, I'll make a world and then put people in it, and then I will lose control of that world, and then
Right.
the protagonists that aren't me, they aren't in here, will do
Right.
things, and it will be cool. And I was like, that's awesome. That idea is
Yeah, so
just
do you find
incredible.
that like that loss of kind of control in that situation, is that more like, was it scary in the beginning and now it's fine, or has it always been like kind of exhilarating?
So yeah, so luckily Aaron was a great mentor in that he set me up very carefully, not carefully, like just he was good, he was smart, he knew
Hmm.
exactly what most people fall into because he had fallen into that hole like pretty much everybody would without a mentor, without somebody telling
Mm-hmm.
you what was going on. So it links into the idea of me being a writer, where somebody
Mm-hmm.
goes like, how much of the you're like I've a master's in creative writing. It was like, how much of that do you use in D&D? Fucking nothing. Just nothing. Just abandon that because like
Really?
yeah, so you've gotta use creative writing for like the world building and the lore, the stuff that the
Mm.
players don't really experience firsthand. They experience it through in-game interactions or through history checks and that kind of thing. um so it is it's my world, but only insofar that I've made it, and then you have to abandon any sense that
Sure. You can't
it
have
belongs to you.
expectations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I leave the writer at the door when I
Mm.
DM because it's not my story, it's not my narrative. You'll see a lot of horror stories of like railroading and like, oh, my players aren't doing what I want them to do. What the fuck does that mean?
These
Your
people
player,
aren't acting out my exact
yeah,
scenario.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like don't do that. Like that's not
Yeah.
good. So the loss of control at the start definitely was alarming, but not for the loss of control. It was for I was DMing for the first time and I didn't really know what to do or how best to react to these things. And that's
Right.
the true skill of a DM isn't creative writing, it's improvisation. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so I won't pretend the creative writing doesn't help. There
Yeah.
is like Aaron and I would talk a lot about how like you and me, like our understanding of a narrative structure,
Mm.
satisfying narrative beats, interesting narrative like conflicts and cooperations, like these things make a satisfying story, and that's what D&D is. It's a cooperative storytelling moment. Like
Right.
every session is just a little like bard's tale that is collected and then added to a thing. And so that's what D&D is. It's the storytelling of your party. You are just the
Mm.
narrator, you're not the writer. And so that's like he
Okay.
backseat, he just disappears, and then D&D DM Karl comes out, which is like, you want to just, all right, sure, fine, just and then you hear like like writer Karl has like duct tape over his mouth and is like bound and gagged in the back because he's
I
screaming.
I actually, okay, so my all of my knowledge of D&D comes from the podcast that I listen to by Scott Johnson, There Will Be
Yeah,
Dungeons. And I mean it's phenomenal. It's such a good podcast. But there's been a few times, and like the DM for their game is phenomenal. Like
yeah,
he's unbelievable, Bo Schwartz. Um and I mean, God, I've spent so many hours listening to these people. I think I'm on like episode 60 or something, and they all are like a proper session. Like it's like
yeah,
3 hours.
yeah. It's a
And
whole.
it's a whole thing. Um, but I was listening to an episode the other day, and it was just like one of the characters who he just plays a barbarian so unbelievably well, where it's just like, this is the way I think. It doesn't matter that I'm actually a human saying these things. And you could just see on Bo's face that he was like, what? Okay, we'll do that. And it was
Yeah,
like leaving a trail of bananas, like Hansel and Gretel crumbs. Like he was just like, this is what I have to do. I'll just throw a
yeah,
banana out and they'll know to follow.
yeah,
And it's just like, I feel like those kinds of moments are like, I feel like as a DM would be the highlight of your DMing experience, to be like, my
yeah.
people are so weird. They think about
Yes,
things so differently.
absolutely. Like that is the beauty of D&D is, I think, you, because you said like the loss of control, and I think the loss of control is actually probably I've realized it's probably the best part of
Sure.
D&D. I used to plan out, so like session start, and then I would plan like, like point A, point B, point C, like maybe a social encounter here that could be combat, a full social encounter here, and I would like plan out these bits.
Okay.
The more that you plan, the more that they will just be like over here instead of here. Like if
Right.
this is your line, they'll be up here or down here. They'll just leave. So like the loss of control is where those moments live. Those moments
Yeah.
where there's a couple of times when they were like, oh, like we after the game they say like, oh, we saw like really annoyed you that one time. I was like, what do you mean you annoyed me? And like your face, and I was like, no, that wasn't me being
That's
annoying.
my thinking face.
No, 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 not even that part. Like that was me going, "Holy fuck, that's what you're doing in this situation!" Like blown away that I like every because you're like, oh, okay, well the boss will have these 12 safeguards, like these 12 contingency plans,
Mm.
and they will find the 60,000 other things that you never thought of
Right.
because you aren't six other human beings with their own
Exactly.
experiences.
Yeah.
That yeah, the loss of control is where the I think the
It's where the
beauty
creativity happens.
of those moments where
Yeah.
I say something stupid offhand to like cover something for improv, and then somebody like grabs onto it with both hands and goes, let me use this. Let me think about this for a second." Like there's a um my mate Aaron, I'm playing in one of his games, one of the few times I'm playing at the moment, and I'm playing a dwarven barbarian, and
Okay.
a group of lumber men, logmen, I don't know what to call that.
Logman.
Logman.
Definitely. That's definitely the
Yeah.
term. Logman.
So a number of logmen challenged my warrior friend. He's like an ex-soldier to if you could throw logs far enough,
Okay.
and the bet was some gold, and like if you beat me enough, you'll get this special thing. And one of them said something. One of them made an offhand remark about like, oh, there's like a thinner, longer log that the women throw, and everyone was kind of like, okay, that's weird, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
his sister's over there, and I was like, does this lumberjack have a sister? Like these men are burly and I am a dwarf. Do they have a sister? And he was like, yeah, you notice one of the men is actually his sister. And she was like this like Kent, like bigger than any man there with like a bit of a beard. And I was like, my character has fallen in love with this meme that you've just like accidentally put forward because somebody made a joke about his sister. And I immediately entered the competition for an opportunity to just hang out with her for a
I
while.
love that.
And I rolled like a fucking 19 on my log toss and absolutely
Amazing.
decimated. And I had a lovely time with Gerda. And I had an ale with
Perfect.
Gerda, and we shared a brief kiss. And Gerda went home that night,
A happy
and
ending.
a
How
happy ending. And
nice.
Fargrim can't wait for the second date. So it is those moments, those just stupid
Yeah,
little
just the spontaneity of humans.
that's
Yeah.
that's D&D. That
Yeah.
just right there is D&D to me. Like that absolute beauty of just yeah, just perfect. I need to turn. Sorry.
So with that in mind,
Mm.
um because I definitely thought that there was more of like the point A, point B, point C
Yeah,
like
yeah.
idea of your trajectory and everything. So how long does it take for you to put together a campaign, like I guess of a reasonable size? You can tell me what's
Yeah.
reasonable.
Like yeah, like what's reason like so this is a folder that my partner got me. Thanks, Beck. I love you. This
Aw.
is yeah, this is and so this is like all of the things I have for the campaign so far. So that's like all session notes just there, and then there's
Jesus.
like other like lore and like the pantheon in there and
Oh
like
my
locations and stuff.
gosh.
So like, but that's what I do because I like doing it. So
I would be the same.
yeah,
Detailed
and like
notes.
and like that's the kind of thing that you have to come to terms with that players aren't going to care about or maybe not even
Mm.
hear. Like a campaign, I wouldn't plan out a campaign A to B, like the
Okay.
end. Like I wouldn't say like this is what happens and this is where it ends, because this campaign originally started out to be there was going to be an underground vampire court, and they were going to do a whole undead army thing, and it was going to be super neat because I was playing The Witcher and I was watching Castlevania and I was watching
Well, there you
Dracula,
go.
and I was like, let's go.
That'll do it.
And that was super neat. And then I ran a one shot for them
Mm-hmm.
before they finished the first campaign. I ran a one shot for them, and the they fell in love with their characters, and that ended up I was going to use that as the intro to the second campaign's world. So they were going to create new characters, and then in the second campaign hear about this town where the one shot happened, and they were going to, oh shit, so it's the same world, and they would have suddenly opened up to all this lore. And so that changed the world, because I was like, the
Mm,
one shot hit with them so well that they loved the idea of it, and so chaos became a much more central like theme. So like
cool.
I wouldn't say planning a campaign, because I don't really have like an actual time limit on
Okay.
like a campaign, but like a session would take me. It's hard to say because I have so much back planning because of the campaign. Campaigns
Mm-hmm.
obviously like you can plan like so much, and then a session might only take you a couple of hours to just put the things together.
Okay.
But like on average, I would say like 3 to 4 hours. If a game is like three or
For the
four hours
campaign
long,
or a session?
like a session. If
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so like if say if we had like a maybe a game coming up on Saturday, it's gonna be a good like 5 or 6 hours a campaign.
No
So
way. Okay.
yeah, sorry, 5 or 6 hour session. It's been a while since we played, and I would say I planned, I'd say more than double 5 hours. Like I play 10,
Yeah.
11 hours planning this session. It's a big one,
Yeah.
but like I have the A to B planned, which is I have where they start and where they're going to end, and the strength of a DM. I don't want to say like the strength of a good DM because it's implying that I'm the good DM,
I'm a
but like
great
yeah,
DM.
I'm a great DM. But like the strength of a DM is having a satisfying endpoint and getting them there,
Mm,
regardless of. So I guess that sounds kind of railroady. They will always get to here, but the
mm-hmm.
circumstances of how they get to there
Sure.
is. So like they could get to here like up, down, like they could get from any angle. They come this way by accident.
Mm,
The what happens after B will change entirely based on how they got there. So
okay.
there is a level of the illusion of choice. We learned about that in the narrative
Sure.
design. There are plenty of choices they make that aren't actual choices,
Yeah.
but I make
Yeah.
but I make sure that I make sure that that choice has an impact. If they
Sure.
wanted
Yeah.
to go to if they wanted to go to an abandoned house instead of the tavern, there might be
Mm-hmm.
similar information to be found there, but I will make
Okay.
sure that they get a benefit of going to the abandoned house rather than the tavern. Like there
Sure.
always
Yeah.
has to be agency there, and reward for their actions, I guess.
Mm,
Yeah. And that isn't a hard and fast rule, like the end point can change. The end point can be fucking a football field away from where I thought we'd end. Like
right.
there's been times when you put like a villain. Never. That's a tip for you and for DMs. Never put a villain in reach that you aren't ready to die. Like
Right.
just don't do it. If you're like, and then he cackles and teleports away, they'll counterspell you and murder him. Don't do it. They will
Is that a
find a
specific
way.
thing that's happened to you?
No, because I'm smart enough not. I've been warned enough not to do
Oh,
it.
you've been warned. Okay.
I was warned not to do that because like I had. No, it hasn't happened to me. It hasn't happened to me because I
Well,
know how dangerous
you are
players are.
going to be my DM for a very short period of time, and you better believe I'm going to try to do
I'm
something.
I'm gonna put plenty of villains to unceremoniously and earlily meet their end at the behest of a Southern Belle with a
Yeah.
yeah okay
Oh,
yeah
that's we should briefly talk about that because
yeah
I mean I had a blast. I don't know about you, but
yeah,
I had a
yeah. I
blast
always do
doing the character creation sheet. Um
always.
so I am a Southern Belle Wood Elf barbarian with a folk hero story. Is that
Yes, your folk hero background. Yeah.
yeah. So all of those, on the face of it, sound like they would not be complementary items. But she, I think, makes so much sense
No, yeah.
Like, as a folk hero, makes total sense that her entire goal for her adventuring career is to dismantle the patriarchy in the multiverse. And
It's so good. It's just so good.
and the Wood Elf Barbarian combo is not one that I would have previously anticipated
Yeah.
like making sense, because you think of like Wood Elves as being like, you know, these sleek like Rivendell type creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And I want my barbarian to be like thick and strong.
Yeah.
But like it
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, no, yeah. This is the benefit of. I think a lot. If it's anybody who knows D&D, they'll be going, "What else can't be barbarians? They have plus Dex, which is not bad, and plus Whiz, yes, Whiz. But the benefit of using Tashes, which is you can just put your stats wherever you want,
Yeah.
because those stats are archetypal. Uh, Wood elves, not every wood elf. There should be slow wood elves. There should be
Mm-hmm.
stupid wood elves. There should be big, thick, tough wood elves. So it's
Yeah.
like
And I mean,
this
like,
is
she's
get
going
in
to be
there.
doing the wolf pack thing, like the animal
Yeah,
totem stuff.
yeah.
Like, come on. It
So
makes
this is
sense.
and when you take the stat away of like, oh, but she can't be strong and tough, and you go, wood elves are 35 speed, not 30, so they already get faster speed. It
Yeah.
kind of makes a lot more sense. And then hiding in plain sight in like lightly obscured areas makes you pretty scary.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean this is the benefit of they're definitely moving towards it, the more malleable character creation, and I love it because it's where this shit lives.
Yeah.
Uh, a Southern Belle Wood Elf barbarian who wants to crush the patriarchy in the multiverse. Welcome, welcome to D&D.
And
That's
also, before her adventuring started, because Carl is just reading out the list of things that I could have like had a trade in before all
mhm,
of this, you know, our adventure began or whatever. And he was like, it's a long list, so just shout whenever something's interesting to you. And for some reason, glass blowing just really like sang to my heart.
mhm,
So I have yet to
mhm.
build her backstory around the glass blowing and why that changed. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's
I'm so
definitely
excited for her.
there's two, and rightfully so. There's two backstories that have occurred to me, which is
Okay.
A, you go for the classic cliche that she was a glassblower, she was
Mm-hmm.
delicate and she was calm. So she had like a
Mm.
steady hand and she became a glassblower, and then a patriarchy, a figure of the patriarchy smashed your glassblowing stand. The other side
Mm.
the other side which I just thought of is that maybe she became a glassblower post tyrant defeat to
Mm.
establish how weak and fragile the patriarchy is. So
Oh,
for each like fight you
ceremonial
do,
droppings of all the.
you blow a lovely like delicate glass speech and you go, this is the patriarchy, and then you smash it. So
Oh my god, that would be
maybe
amazing.
there's some options in there.
Like, this is the thing that I find to be so remarkable about D&D. Like there are so many options. Like rules just don't apply when it comes to
Literally infinite.
creating
Yeah,
certain thing. It's
yeah,
so cool.
it's
Um
beautiful.
I have to ask you though, what has been the most exciting thing that you've created? Like what has been the thing that like you made it and you were like brainchild, I love this.
Oh man.
And don't feel any sort of like Irish guilt on like being proud of something you've
No,
done.
no, no,
Like
no.
just be like, yes, this is the
No,
time that
no.
I kicked ass.
Yeah, well beyond that. No, I hate that. Um, I hate that Irish guilt thing between writing and like having good friends to like embrace positive
Good.
mental health and stuff. I'm well past that shit.
Good, good. I'm glad.
Um, so I'm trying to think like because like when you say something like that, I want to go big. I want to say like this world I created, but
It doesn't have to be
ultimately,
big.
yeah, this. So I'm kind of thinking. So I'm not sure if any of my players will listen to this, but luckily this plot point has
Rude.
already.
Are you saying
Oh,
this
sorry, no,
isn't like
sorry.
incredibly famous podcast?
Sorry. Well, maybe. So
They listen to your
uh,
voice enough. I understand.
they listen to my voice a lot, and it's grating. So there is it's the current campaigns for that folder that I showed there. It
Okay.
is called the Five Continents. Now there's a couple of things in there that I've enjoyed making. I
Hmm.
can't say that I've created them because I it is a piece of advice that I will give to every creative, every DM out there. Art is theft,
Okay.
steal. So a lot of the good stuff that I have is obviously stolen and then
So PSA, condoning thievery.
absolutely
That's the takeaway from today.
absolutely. Uh, don't plagiarize. Don't plagiarize.
Just
But
steal.
if you like an idea, take it and then make it your own. Make it your own. So that's the real part where you avoid the plagiarism, is that you make it your own. You change it. So there's
Right,
like a
rephrase.
cool one. Yeah, one. No, don't rephrase it.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Take it and then don't do that. So like there's a couple of cool things in there, which is like I really enjoyed. I saw somebody talk about how dwarves display their heritage in their beards,
Hmm.
and so like dwarven society in this world is the same. It's like fully like it's an incredibly straightforward society because you can tell who somebody is, what clan they're from, what status they are, what their profession is, if they've served in the military, if they're grieving as a widower, if they're dating somebody, everything's on their beard. It is
Okay.
literally like, so like a black bead means you're a widow or a widower. A red
Okay.
bead over here means you're courting somebody. A white
Ooh.
bead means you're married. Iron rings mark 5 years of military service, and it's all this stuff. And I love it. It's super cool. It's
That
super
is
neat.
cool.
Uh, and then and this is a fact that I will put into every D&D world forever, which
Okay.
is at the start of time, female dwarves can't grow beards. That's a fact. And then
Okay.
there is always a female dwarf who goes on a journey and
Okay.
arrive at Moradin's Forge, who is the god of dwarves, and just declares, just like goes, this is going to happen before I leave, which is female dwarves get the choice to grow beards. Because
Ooh.
I always, because like that's a joke that like you can't tell female dwarves apart. Now in the D&D
Uh-huh.
world that isn't true. They are very clearly distinct. But
Mm-hmm.
I always love the idea of a female like warrior or hero
Mm-hmm.
arriving at like the crack in the material plane and just being like, I get to grow a beard and that's my choice. You
This
are going
is
to
what
give
I
me
came for.
this is you're gonna give me. So Kristak Godseeker is
Wow.
the female dwarven hero. She forwent her clan name because she literally sought out Moradin and said that I get to grow a beard if I want to. So female dwarves can choose to grow a shorter, albeit just as thick beard, or they can not, and they display their heritage in their hair and in their however
Very
they like
cool.
it. But that actually wasn't going to be the one, but I like that. I do like that a lot.
If you have another thing that you'd like to
There
talk about.
there is my so yeah, so this
You
is the
seem
thing.
so stressed about it.
It's just like
Please.
torturing my players is the greatest thing, and that
Okay.
is that like making your players. I think this is probably why it's one of my greatest moments and like creations is because the reaction I got at the table is something that you like dream of, which
Okay.
is my brother's character in this world is an Azamar warlock.
Mm-hmm.
He which is so in this world he wanted Azamars to actually be from the upper plane. So Azamar are like at some point in your heritage, somebody in your heritage had sex with like an actual angel or some
Okay.
kind of celestial. So you are like angel blood individual. The alternative is a tiefling, which is the exact same but a devil or a demon.
Right.
And you're like horned and red skin. So he's the only Azamar in the party. He's like, can they be like literally mini angels? And I was like, yeah, that's dope, sure. So he's from the upper planes, but he was a soldier who died in a battle, and he was like, I I want to make a pact with something. And I was like, are you cool with me just designing that pact and like not telling you who it is? And he was like, yes. So I made him make a deal with the devil, literally made a deal with the devil. So as a servant of the upper planes, he made a
Oh.
deal with Asmodeus,
What?
the Lord of the Nine Hells. Um,
That's so cool.
he made a deal, yeah, which is dope. So he made a deal with the devil so that he could come back and kill the demons that were hunting the rear guard. So essentially, he makes a terrible decision for the best reason. You know that classic story, right?
Yeah.
And as a result, when he returns after saving the rear guard, they kick him out of heaven and they kick him out of Elysium and they go like, you made a deal with like you broke our rules. So he doesn't know who he made a deal with.
Oh my god,
Because
this oh my
so
god.
it's just like ooh, right? So
Yeah, it's
he
the tiny
learned
chef hands in the
it's
sand
the
again.
time it's the sand all over again. So when he so when he got to the mortal plane, he was literally cast out. His wings were like torn from him, and he was cast out. He lands and has no recollection of why he was cast out. He just knows that he made a deal with something dark. He doesn't know what it was, And after a couple of sessions, there was a lot of suspicion. So Asmodeus, it had to be revealed that he had made a deal with Asmodeus. And
Okay.
this whole thing came as everybody was like, "Oh shit!" So there was a lot of cool stuff of like, can he hear us all the time? Because he was trying to find a way out of the pact.
Uh-huh.
And this came to a conclusion, not a conclusion, a midpoint where another player, uh, Killian, if you listen to this, you're a great player. He made this cute little like 20-something-year-old gnome, which by
Okay.
our standards, like our age, would be like a 13-year-old girl child, like an actual
Okay.
child, and she is a prodigy of magic
Oh,
because her dad was the super cool war mage, and she like read his spell book from a young age and like really like immediate affinity for it.
I love
And
that.
he never came back from his last deployment, so he never came back, so she was just alone, right? My brother, his character is in a library trying to figure out something, and he is flipping through a book, and a person approaches him hooded and cloaked, and like forces a token into his hand, this like thing into his hand, and is like, you and I are in very similar positions.
Okay.
You are like, I'm stuck, like I can't be saved, but you still have hope. And he was like, take this token, you'll know it when you see it. And he was like, what
Okay.
the fuck? And then Alex, my brother, looked down at the token, and when he looked back, your mom was gone. And they were like, oh fuck, oh, what's going on? And so my brother was like baffled and stuff. And out of fucking nowhere, Greta, you're also an amazing player. And I asked her later, why did you ask me this question? And she didn't have any suspicions. She just wanted to like be like, oh, what's his eye color? Because she thought she'd like catch me out, or maybe she's just curious.
Uh-huh.
Killian's character, Rosie Wise, Silverlight, her family is named for their incredibly unique silver eyes.
Okay.
And she was like, what color were his eyes? And I was like, Terrell, my brother, I was like, Terrell, his eyes were a piercing silver, and he was a gnome. And Kill at the table was like, that is not my dad. That is not my dad. He was like, no fucking way. And my brother, my brother was like, do I know any other gnomes with silver eyes? And I was like, you only know one other gnome with silver eyes. You've never seen another gnome with silver eyes. And he was like,
Oh my
um, okay.
god.
So this whole thing where he goes, where it's like, my dad's dead, but he came back to you. Like, why didn't he come back to me? So I can't talk anymore because that hasn't come up yet.
Oh
But
my god. Oh, I'm
so,
like enraptured though. I want to
so
know what
this is,
happens with that
I'm just like,
storyline.
me too, because I can't execute it until we play more sessions. So that is one of those moments where just a player yelling at me that twist didn't happen. Like, no, that's it.
That is
No,
not
that's
my dad.
that's not my fucking dad.
Oh my
That
gosh.
it's moments like that where you're just like, more mini
That's
chef hands.
so
So
cool. Oh, I love that.
yeah, so I was quite proud of that
Well,
one. Yeah.
that is certainly a high note to leave it on for this episode. I think that's so fucking rad. Um, I'm gonna be thinking about that like set of circumstances for too long. But Karl, where can people find you, and do you have anything you wish to promote?
I am a remarkably private person.
That's
Sorry, actually,
totally
sorry.
fair.
That's
You don't
sorry,
have
actually,
to.
not even in that way. Actually, sorry. I just meant that like I don't have any public profiles. Like I don't. Um,
Okay,
um,
okay. You're just here
uh,
for fun.
I'm here for D&D and people yelling at me that isn't true. That's that's what I'm here for.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you want to stay up to date with everything late to the game, oh wait, actually, I have an announcement. It's like a kind of a little itty bitty baby announcement. My community is fully aware of the fact that I'm trying to build a PC and the parts will just not arrive. Like they will not come in. Amazon has been the worst. Um, so we'll see when that happens. But in the meantime, I've potentially found a way to do a little bit of streaming. So more news will come in a few weeks on that. But get freaking ready because I'm very excited about that. But besides that, if you need any news and you want to stay up to date on all things late to the game, please go to my website, redelliegamer.com. That is REDELLIEGMR.com. And we will see you next time. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Karl, for being here. It's been an
Uh,
absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. That was a blast.
Good, great. Okay. We done.
We done?
We done.
That was cool. I talk way too much.